Greetings. In this video we are still continuing with our topic, which is the research process. We are looking at the research process. Our major aim was to look at how to write a research report. But before you write a research report, there is you have to go through a research process. So it is what we are looking at. We are looking at the research process. Everything that is involved in the research process is what we are looking at in this series of videos. So in the previous video, we are in position to look at the thematics data analysis as a qualitative method of data analysis. Now in this video, our aim is to look at the content analysis as a qualitative method of data analysis. So to help you understand, we are going to look at it at first in comparison with the thematics analysis. So by definition, content analysis is a general term for a number of different strategies used to analyze text. It is a systematic coding and categorizing approach used for exploring large amounts of textual information unobtrusively to determine trends and patterns of words used, their frequency, their relationships, and the structures and discourses of communication. So the purpose of content analysis is to describe the characteristics of the document's content by examining who says what, to whom, and with what effect. Whereas, on the other hand, thematics analysis is an independent qualitative descriptive approach that is mainly described as a method for identifying, analyzing, and reporting patterns or themes within data. So it is also a method of a qualitative descriptive method that provides core skills to researchers for conducting many other forms of qualitative analysis. So when you look at we are comparing these two, thematics analysis with content analysis, to help you easily understand what content analysis is, because I'm sure by now you know what thematics analysis is. So you want to understand what content analysis is. So when you look at aims and focus of data analysis, now this is the at first we've looked at definition of both. Now we are looking at the aim and focus of data analysis for thematics and for content analysis. So this is like a subheading. So it seems that both content analysis and thematics analysis share the same aim of analytically examining narrative material from life stories by breaking the text into relatively small units of content and submitting them to descriptive treatment. So both content and thematics analysis approaches are suitable for answering questions such as what are the concerns of people about an event, what reasons do people have for using or not using a particular service or procedure, things like that. Besides, content analysis is well suited to analyze the multifaceted, important and sensitive phenomena. Like for example, if you're conducting exploratory work in an area where not much is known, content analysis may be suitable for the simple reporting of common issues mentioned in data. And it has been suggested that thematics analysis as a flexible and useful research tool provides a rich and detailed yet complex account of the data. So that's just to note. And then it should be noted that both approaches allow for qualitative analysis of data. They are both used for qualitative analysis of data. They are both qualitative methods of data analysis. But by using content analysis, it is possible to analyze data qualitatively and at the same time quantify the data. Like for example, we've been seeing that quantitative data analysis, content data analysis is both can be used both quantitatively and qualitatively to analyze data. So content analysis uses a descriptive approach in both coding of the data and its interpretation of quantitative counts of the codes, whereas thematics analysis provides a purely qualitative, detailed, and nosed account of data. Like nosed is like missing out some small differences in meanings of some phrases, something of that sort. So this is the difference with the content analysis. You can do both qualitative and quantitative analysis, but with thematics, it is only qualitative. It is purely qualitative. So when we look at description and interpretation as another subheading in comparison of thematics and content data analysis, under this subheading, you see that when using content analysis, that is, if you're looking at description and interpretation, when you're using content analysis, the primary aim is to describe the phenomenon in a conceptual form. That is, the content that the content analyst views data as representations not of physical events but of texts, images and expressions created to be seen, read, interpreted and acted on for their meanings, and must therefore be analyzed with such uses in mind. However, content analysis beg your pardon. In contrast, thematics analysis applies minimal description to data sets and interprets various aspects of the research topic. So now we are going to look at we are going to compare data analysis processes in both thematic analysis and content analysis. We are going to compare the steps in the data processes for each of these data analysis types. Like for example, we are going to look at some of the steps in thematics analysis, like the steps of how to do thematics analysis, like how we saw in the previous video, and then you are going to compare them with the steps of how to do content analysis. So to start with, when you look at thematics analysis, we have a step known as familiarizing with the data, or familiarization, whereby the analyst aims to transcribe the data, read and reread, transcribing data, reading and rereading the data, noting down initial ideas, all those aimed at familiarizing yourself with the data. Now this step of familiarization is similar to the first step of content analysis, which is called preparation. Like when you're looking at thematics data analysis, the first step is familiarizing yourself with the data, and when you look at content analysis, the first step is preparation. So when you look at these two steps, they both aim at the same thing, that is familiarizing yourself with the data. When you look at preparation and content analysis, here the analyst is being immersed in the data and obtaining the sense of the whole, selecting the units of analysis, deciding on the analysis of the manifest content or latent content. So you see that all this is aiming at getting familiar with the data. So then that is the first step. So at that point, content analysis is similar to thematics analysis. What I want to show you is that there is a close similarity between content analysis and thematics analysis, and sometimes the two are interchanged. Like you can use any of them for a particular data analysis, which can still be fine, though they have some small differences. So we've seen the first step, and now when you go to the second step, in thematics analysis, the second step is generating initial codes. Like having familiarized yourself with the data, then you go on to generate codes. We saw how we can generate codes. That was in the previous video of thematics analysis. And then under this step, the analyst aims at coding interesting features of the data systematically across the entire data set, collecting data relevant to each code. Collecting is like gathering and collecting together, like collecting together data relevant to each code. We saw this when we were looking at thematics, how to do thematics analysis, like having coded your data, then you collect those codes that are similar, that have the same meaning, you collect them together, and then you generate themes, something like that. So that is it. But this step of generating initial codes is similar to the second step of content analysis, which is called organizing. Because with content analysis, having finished with the first step, which is preparation, then you go on to organizing. And under this step of organizing, the analyst aims at open coding and creating categories, grouping codes under higher order headings, formulating a general description of the research topic through generating categories and subcategories, as abstracting. Now what you have to know that is that when it comes to content analysis and thematics analysis, they almost have the same steps. It is just the terms that change. Like for thematics analysis, having finished generating codes, we create themes. But with the content analysis, having finished creating codes, we create categories. So the procedure is the same, it is just the name that changes. Instead of calling them themes, with the content analysis we call them categories, but it is the same thing. Like when you're doing thematics analysis, the same way you create themes and you group those codes under those themes, it is the same way you do even for content analysis. You would from codes you generate categories and subcategories, just like we have themes in thematics analysis. So you find that these two, they have the same steps, the same procedures. They are just small differences which come in according to what you're looking at. For example, if you're doing relational content analysis or conceptual content analysis, because we're going to look at the different types of conceptual analysis and relational analysis. And then the other difference comes in when let's say you're looking at frequencies of words. Because with content analysis you can do qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis. When you do quantitative analysis, then it means you go with things like frequencies of words, how many times a word has occurred in the data set, something like that. But the process of coding and generating categories is almost the same. So that's what I wanted to show you. Then so with thematics analysis, so this stage of the second stage of content analysis, which is organizing, includes all the rest of the other steps of thematics analysis. Like this step, what is done in this step of organizing and content analysis covers all the other steps of thematics analysis. From after generating initial codes, that's where we've started seeing these things being like looking at this similarity in procedures or steps. Like generating initial codes is the same as organizing. So after everything done under organizing in content analysis is similar to all those steps you do, from creating initial codes, then you go on to creating themes, then reviewing themes, because having finished creating your themes, you have to review your themes. That is comparing your themes with the data set to see if they are actually to see if your themes actually are right all over. How should I put it? Now, to see if your themes work in relation to the coded extracts and entire data set. Then having finished that, then you generate a thematic map. Then after that, then you define and name your themes. Having finished generating your themes and reviewing them, then you define and name those themes. We looked at all these procedures under thematics under the previous video when we were looking at how to do thematics analysis. So all these procedures are under one procedure in content analysis, which is organizing, whereby you do coding. Having finished coding, you do the categories and subcategories, something like that. So then the last step is producing the report. So when we look at producing the report in thematics analysis, having finished doing your analysis, the last procedure is to produce a report or to write a report of your analysis, because having finished your analysis, then you write your report, because all this you do it to come up with a report, because the procedure is like you do the research. Having finished doing the research, the purpose of doing the research most times or sometimes is to write a report or to write a research report. So meaning having made the research and analyzed the data, then you have to write a report. So that is the last step, which is producing the report. So the final opportunity for analysis, So selection of vivid, compelling, extract examples, final analysis, anything like that is the last step of producing your report. Then so this is this even with content analysis, having finished organizing your data and then creating categories and subcategories, then you have to analyze it. Like you have to draw conclusions which you then use to write a report. So reporting the analyzing process and the results through models, conceptual systems, conceptual maps or categories, and the storyline. So the other difference, apart from the differences we've looked at between thematics and content analysis, is that with the content analysis, when you're presenting your data in your report, you use models or conceptual maps, things like that, which is not the case with thematics data analysis, whereby you can either choose to use a table, you can either choose to write the theme and then give details. So for it is very flexible. You use whichever method, you present your data in any way that is better for you, the way that you find convenient is what to use. Like in the previous video, I tasked you to go on Google and search for a thematics analysis report, and then you see how you get different PDFs of that, and then you see how those people represented their data, just to help you see how you can represent thematics analysis data. So you can also do the same for content analysis. You get samples and then you see how these models are made, something like that. You see how actually people present their data. So this implies that the analytical process for both thematic and content analysis is similar, in that the researcher familiarizes himself or herself with the data first and then conducts coding on all the data. So in thematics analysis, the researcher systematically codes all the data and then begins to organize the codes based on some similarity and organizes them into larger and larger categories that may lead to hierarchical structure of codes, that is sub-themes and then themes. Like simply meaning that with the thematic data analysis, the analyst familiarizes him or herself with the data. After that, he generates codes, or he codes the data, and then from there he arranges those codes into depending in the similarity in meaning, and then he groups them together under themes and sub-themes, something like that, in hierarchy, something like that. Whereas in content analysis, the researcher codes the data and generates categories and subcategories. So with thematic analysis, you code the data, generate themes, but content analysis, you code the data, generate categories. The procedure of generating categories is almost the same as the procedure for generating themes. Categories and subcategories are just having got your codes, you then get you collect them into larger into larger and larger categories or groups, which you call categories, and you name them depending on your research question. So what you should know that just as we observed with thematics analysis, everything, your coding and your generation of categories, it depends on your research question. That is something that is very crucial. So the representation of findings between thematics analysis and content analysis are a little different, just as we have seen. So themes along with the supporting excerpts from the data are presented in the final report, including description of those themes in relation to the research question. That is how you can present thematics analysis results. But with content analysis, the researcher often presents the results as conceptual maps or models, just as I've said previously. So the likely sources of information for content analysis is collections of data from a set of texts which can be written or visual. For example, books, newspapers, magazines, speeches and interviews, web content, and social media posts, photographs and films, things like that. So you may ask yourself, what is content analysis used for? So content analysis is used by researchers to find out about the purposes, messages and effects of communication content. They can also make inferences about the producers and audience of the text they have analyzed or they analyze. So by now we know that content analysis can be used to quantify the occurrence of certain words, phrases, subjects or concepts in a set of historical or contemporary texts. So when you look at quantitative content analysis, for example, let's say if you want to research the importance of employment issues in the political campaigns, you could analyze campaign speeches for the frequency of terms such as unemployment, jobs and work, and you can use statistical analysis to find differences over time or between candidates. That's, you want to find the importance of employment issues in political campaigns, so you can do that. And then in addition, content analysis can be used to make qualitative inferences by analyzing the meaning and the semantic relationship of words and concepts. So that is an example of a quantitative content analysis, whereby someone would wish to research the importance of employment issues in politics. So there you have to look at campaign speeches from different politicians, and then you see how many times the frequency of terms that can be related to employment in their speeches, and then you use statistical analysis to find the differences over time or between candidates, and you use it to get some answers to your question. And then a qualitative content analysis example you can have is whereby someone wishes to gain a more qualitative understanding of employment issues in political campaigns, and here you could locate the word unemployment in speeches, identify what other words or phrases appear next to it, such as economy, let's say inequality or laziness, and then you analyze the meaning of these words, the meaning of these relationships, to better understand the intentions and the targets of different campaigns. So you see that these approaches, they have different, like for quantitative, we looked at the frequencies of these words. For qualitative, you're looking at the meaning of relationships, and you are looking at to understand the intentions and the targets of different campaigns. So with the qualitative, look at the meanings of certain words. But for quantitative, look at the frequencies, how many times this happens, occurs, things like that. So because content analysis can be applied to a broad range of texts, it is used in a variety of fields, including marketing, media studies, anthropology, cognitive science, psychology, and other social science disciplines. So we shall look at the different goals of content analysis, and then we shall look at the advantages and disadvantages, types of we shall look at the types of content analysis and how to carry out those different types, because it has conceptual analysis and then relational analysis. So you know that in this video we've not looked at how to do content analysis. It has just been like an introductory part. So in the next video we shall look at how to do relational analysis and then conceptual analysis. Thank you for watching. If it has been helpful, you can like and share with friends and subscribe to support our page. Thank you. God bless you. Stay tuned.